Okay, so this is the first video of the tutorial series, and we're gonna talk about Rhino. And as you can see, I have Rhino open right here, and I have Rhino 6, and you might have Rhino 7, which is the latest version, but they should look similar. There are four windows in the middle, looking at the model you're about to create from four different perspectives, and there are lots of tools above and to the left, and there are also more control panels on the right side. And on top, you can see this. There's a command area, and if you, there are two ways to like use Rhino. One is to find the icon that represents a command and click on that. For instance, that's the icon for creating a box, and you can create the box. And the other way is just to type in the command. So as you can see, I'm typing in box, and if you hit enter or just click on that, you also enter the same command, and you can create a box like that. And that's what I like to use because it's really hard to search for a specific tool button on this really complicated panel. So it would be nice if you can just remember a few commands that we use, and they're pretty easy to and intuitive to remember, to memorize. And so first of all, these are the four windows, and you can zoom in and zoom out by double clicking these names. So if you double click on top, you zoom into the top. And if you zoom into perspective, that's what I like to use. I like to just stay with perspective and zoom out to top when necessary. And here you can navigate through the scene. So you can turn with your right mouse and turn left and right by clicking the right click and then drag your mouse. So right click and mouse. And you can select with a click on your left click, and you can also select multiple items by dragging a box. So if you drag from left to right, you can select whatever is completely inside this box. So if you cover the two, you can select two at the same time. But if you select from right to left, even though you're not covering the whole box, you can select this item. So you can work with this depending on how. So for instance, if you have like these two nested, you want to select this box only, you should do it from left to right. Or this box only, you should do it from here. From the other side, you might automatically select the other. So just, you don't need to remember all these because there are lots of these details, but you just remember sometimes it works differently from two directions for the selection. And you can turn, and there's one thing I would like to change. So by default, you're in the wireframe mode, and you can click on this arrow, and in the drop-down menu, you can see there's shaded, which is opaque shaded, and there's also one more really nice version, which is ghosted view. So you can see these hidden lines, and you can select the hidden lines from this view. And you can also turn to rendered, which makes it more realistic. You might need to use rendered to see how the textures look like if you decide to apply textures in Rhino instead of uh, Unity. So I like to stay with ghosted because that reveals the most information about the scene. Yep, as I said, the commands can be typed in. So if, and we already know how to model boxes. You can type in box and click once to set a corner and twice to set the other corner, and then the third time to adjust the height. And you can also do this. So if you click on box, if you type in box and you see there's a 3 point version, that's what I like to use. I don't use the other three methods. So if you see the P is under has an underline below it. So if you type in P and hit enter, it automatically enters 3 points. But in 3 point, you can type in 1 point and And now instead of controlling both the width and the length of the box at the same time with the other corner, you're able to control just one side first. And here you can set this side and set the other side and then set the third side. So you have one more control over the box. So now when we type in box again and then type in P, you can see you can also type in other information. So for instance, you can type in the length of the edge. For instance, you can type in 1, which means 1 unit. And we'll talk about what the units are in a sec. And 1 is pretty small in this case. Yeah, you use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. I forgot to mention that. My mouse gets disconnected. Okay, so now, for instance, you can type in 10, and that's the other edge, and you can type in like 20 again, and you can see the 20 is pointing downwards. That's because it has a positive direction, but you can always like move it up. So for moving the boxes and moving any objects, you can see there's this gump now, so which you can turn on and off right below, right here. And I like to keep it on so you can drag it around, but it's not precise. One way to move it precisely is you can click on this up arrow and it lets you enter a certain amount. So the height of this box is 20, so we can type in 20 to move it up by 20 units. And now the bottom aligns with everything else. And the other thing is we can also type in move, like right there. So you can move, and then you can type in either have one selected or before selecting anything. So if you type in move here, so it says select objects to move. You can select all the object you want to move. For instance, if you want to move these, I select all of them, and you press enter when this selection is done. And now you can see this point comes this shape, and you can click on any corner and anywhere to move it towards any direction, X, Y, or Z. I'm not sure if how they're mapped, but if you have the snapping on, you can snap it easily to certain distances. You can also type in a distance, for instance, 20, and as you can see, it snaps to 20 no matter which direction you move to, and click again to move and release. So that's moving, modeling and moving boxes. And one more thing we might want to do is the snapping stuff. So as you can see underneath, you have these checkboxes that you can check to snap certain objects. You can snap the endpoints, meaning the ends of any line. You can also snap when it's near to a line. So for instance, when it's near close to this edge, it snaps to the edge. It also snaps to the midpoint because the mid is turned on. And if it's a circle or something, it can snap to the center or intersections or other stuff. So you can set these to, if you want to really align something, for instance, that's a building that I want to place on top of this column. You can hit move. You can either type in the whole move or just type in M, and it automatically knows it's move. And yeah, sometimes it does that and sometimes it doesn't. But for move, it always automatically moves. And you can click on this corner and then click on this corner again. It aligns perfectly with that corner. So that's what's really unique about Rhino and other like nerve-based modeling software. Unlike Blender that um, does everything in a really unprecise way to me. In Rhino, you can align anything really easily, so it's easier to create buildings and those organized shapes. And how do we rotate and scale objects? So you know how to move, and if you want to turn it, you can also turn it with the gum now. Um, you can either have the oh snap on. If it's on, it's if it's off, it doesn't snap to the grid and it doesn't snap to. No, it's not this. Oh, it's this ortho. Um, so it will allow you to rotate at a final degree, and if you press on shift while rotating, it also snaps to 90 degrees. I can, and for scaling, you can also drag these, but these are not the best way to do that because we want to be precise. If you're using Rhino, you want to be precise. So you can now select an object and type in rotate. It's just the name of the, you can try other names actually. And there's lots of functions, so that's why I think it's easier to just type in the method names instead of looking for the icons. And it asks you for a center of rotation, so you can click on if you have snapping on or snap. Yeah, or snap turns these snapping completely on and off. If you have snapping on, you can click on a corner and then ask you to choose the first point, which you can click on anywhere. And then the second point, you can click again to release. You can also type in the angle. So if you type in 90, that would be 90 degrees. If you type in 45, that would be 45 degrees. And you click again to release and place it right there. And for scale, it's the same. So you can type in scale and it asks you to for base point and a second point, and then you drag it to scale. And you can also, if you want to scale it half size, you can click once, and without clicking the second time, you type in 0.5 and hit enter. So it's not scales to like half the size. Actually, it's like one is the size, the volume. And you can also, if you know the distance, if you like, for instance, put it here, you can see how long it is right below here. So it's like 7.152 millimeters. If you want to scale this to, for instance, 10 millimeters, you type in 10, and it automatically changes the this length to the length you type in. And one more thing is you can scale in one direction, one dimensionally. So you can type in scale 1D. That's actually what I use the most. Instead of scaling it in all three directions, you can scale 1D. So if you click on one corner and the other corner and scale, as you can see, it scales in one direction. And you can right click to bring up the command that you just typed in. For instance, if I right click right here, you can see it's scale 1D. And you can right click, no, you can hit ESC just to escape, and you can click on this and scale to another direction and scale up. These are just a few basic interactions. You'll learn more commands, but these are the most common commands I think that you're going to encounter.